Wednesday, 16th June 2021. Coming to you live from Lagos, Nigeria. This is Breakfast Central.
It is indeed the brightest breakfast show on the continent, set to brighten up your day. We're reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to Breakfast Central. My name is Oluchi Enobong.
Good morning, Africa. I am Olisa Chukuma, reporting for duty today and ensuring that you get the top stories, news and insights every day. By the way, Oluchi, today, it's World Veggie Day today, so it's an exciting one. And also it's International Water Day, June 16th, 2021. So Africa is clearly and indeed truly awake. Well, let's start the show with a look at the headlines. South Africa commemorates Youth Day today. We'll tell you all about it.
And with an exclusive in terms of revelation on the Gongon killings, we'll be bringing it.
Also on the program, Nigerians qualify for USA Storytelling Project.
And in the world of sports, Sierra Leone beats Benin 1-0 to secure AFCON qualification.
Plus, the latest when it comes to COVID-19 updates, all that and more on today's Breakfast Central on News Central.
All right, we'll begin the program this morning with a review of the major newspaper headlines today, the 16th of June, 2021. And of course, the first paper we have this morning is the Citizen newspaper. And looking at the Citizen newspaper this morning, new Zambian rule to hit Tanzania transporters. It says in the paper this morning, it says also 3.4 trillion shillings is asking a lot of questions right about now. Also on the Citizen papers, why taxpayers should brace for more pain. Wow, more pain. There's a big hammer hitting the telephone in front at the front page of the Citizen this morning. Also on the Citizen's paper, Samir, government is working to end youth job crisis. Is it? More details from the Citizen's paper.
All right, so go straight to the Punch in Nigeria, West Africa, to see what they have today for us, the Wednesday, 16th of June, 2021. So a big story there. Military bombards bandits in north central forest as the NAF bombs killed 500 cows, 200 missing in Nasarawa, alleges Miyetti Allah. Reports of 1,000 cows killed unrealistic, says NAF, and troops comb Katsina forest. So there you have it on the front page. And there's also an interesting one for the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibajo. It looks like he was doing radio media duties yesterday at the inauguration of the Federal Road Safety Code Traffic Radio at the FRSC headquarters in Abuja. So that's the Vice President there, all masked up and operating, well, was he operating the console, but clearly launching that radio station over there. Also on the front page at the top there, it says inflation pushed 7 million Nigerians below poverty line. That's in according to the World Bank. More on that on page 25, but it's been teased on the front page of the Punch in Nigeria.
Right, from Nigeria, we'll move to Uganda. We're looking at the Daily Monitor this morning. The front page of the Daily Monitor has COVID-19, right, and what it says, the price patients are paying. That's what's on the Daily Monitor. You have hospitals run out of space for patients. That's what it says here. COVID-19 kills 25 people in a single day. Wow, that's a sad one from the Daily Monitor this morning. Also, you will see the front page here. You see a lot of people. It's in terms of the miners, about 4 miners that were affected from the collapse that happened right there in Uganda. There you have it from the Daily Monitor this morning. Also the Daily Monitor, new cabinet, Parliament approved 20 ministers on the first day of vetting. That's on page 6 from the Daily Monitor.
All right, so let's go straight to Kenya with the Daily Nation in the country. Politics features quite heavy with that man there, William Ruto. So it says it's everyone for himself as factions crop up, collapse of the tyranny of numbers. And they also have a front page also on the spread that talks about Ruto blames Uhuru for Jubilee fall. That's the party. So Deputy President William Ruto yesterday accused President Kenyatta of orchestrating the fall of the ruling party, Jubilee Party, as part of a plan to back the opposition in the 2022 elections. All of that politics on the front page of the Daily Nation in Kenya. Also, at the top right, anger as thousands miss Form 1 schools of choice. So, interesting picture there. It says the long wait for the 2020 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education Examination candidates form placement ended in disappointment after a vast majority were admitted to schools they never chose. So, perhaps wrong schools of choice. We'll find out more on that on the front page of the Daily Nation in Kenya. Also at the bottom says murder. Julie Ward's father still hoping to get justice 33 years later. Find out more on that in today's paper of the Daily Nation.
Right, now having gone through some of the major newspapers across the continent, it is now time for our top stories. Right, we'll begin with a very cheerful story from West Africa, Nigeria, where Reverend Polycarp Zongo, a pastor at a wildlife park in Jos of Plateau State, has regained his freedom 7 months after he was kidnapped by Islamic State militants in Gombe State. Now, the cleric was among several humanitarian workers and civilians who were released by the terrorists on Monday, June 14, in Maiduguri of Borno State.
Now, he, alongside 2 Christian women, were abducted by the Boko Haram terrorists on October the 9th last year. Also, 10 people, including an aid worker from the UN Refugee Agency, kidnapped in Nigeria 5 months ago, have been freed by their abductors. Now, they are believed to have been held by the Islamic State West Africa province, ISWAP as they call them, which is perhaps an offshoot of Boko Haram. Now, the UNHCR spokesman commended Nigerian authorities for their help, adding that the victims are undergoing medical checks and security debriefs in Maiduguri, the capital of northeastern state of Borno, before being allowed to go to their families.
Now, joining us on this latest development is our News Central's chief researcher, Abdulateef Ahmed, who is right here on the show. Welcome to Breakfast Central, Abdulateef.
Having me. Good morning.
Good morning. Please, looking at the situation, looking at what's happened, these people were kidnapped since October of last year and were recently released just on Monday, 14th of June, 2021. Can you shed more light on this particular story? Is it freedom really regained from Boko Haram or ISWAP, as we've read in the stories?
First, it is heartening to know that the pastor has been released. It's a relief for Plateau State government, for well-meaning Nigerians, and for his immediate family, and the Church of Christ in nations, and Christians and Muslims, as the case may be, in the country. There was an assumption that ISWAP or Boko Haram kidnapped him. What we knew as of the time he was kidnapped was that he was kidnapped by the Khalifa group of Boko Haram. However, on the day he was kidnapped, he was heading to Gombe for a Christian function. He was kidnapped with 2 other ladies, and we are yet to know if these unidentified ladies or unnamed ladies have been released. But he has been released, and another aid worker has been released some time ago. So it looks like, because ISWAP has taken over the reins of leadership of the insurgents in the northeast, it looks like this is something coming from ISWAP.
All right, so a release, it has been this term. Now, was there any indication of perhaps ransom being paid? On what terms would the Islamic State province of West Africa release a captured prisoner, taken up more than almost 6 months ago?
Okay, there's a slight difference between the operational patterns of ISWAP and Boko Haram. They are both lethal and very dangerous groups. However, ISWAP seems to be a little lenient with people. They are understanding in quotes. However, what has happened there's no indication that there was any form of ransom paid, because the groups involved did confirm that there was no release of funds either from the church or from well-meaning Nigerians or from the state government of Plateau State.
Right. Now, when you say lenient, it makes people wonder, are we seeing an end to this Boko Haram era or ISWAP era, as it were?
I'm thinking that there will be a more concerted effort to dislodge ISWAP. ISWAP has a more formidable number of foot soldiers, and they have their reigns around the northeast. What they intend to do is to play into the minds and brains of people to make them assume that they are a more favorable group of people. Essentially, what they do is to tax people and collect security protection money from people and give them a sense of hope that they will protect them. But they are equally as dangerous as Boko Haram, and they should be eliminated by the security agencies in the country.
Just before we let you go, Bahati, if you just pretend that there's more of a security threat now for the Nigerian authorities to deal with Boko Haram, which that war has been going on for over a decade, and now you don't have the ISWAP, Islamic State West Africa province, seemingly taking over the reins, reportedly being the ones responsible for killing Shekau, and then going on to show somehow like goodwill, releasing hostages. What is really going on here? Are they saying we're not going to be seeing beheadings, unfortunately, on social media from ISWAP?
For ISWAP, it is what they do, because most of them are high on drugs and high on religion, as the case may be. So you cannot predict when they will move from 0 to 100. At any point, they can decide to behead. At some other point, they can decide to be lenient. When they see that their powers or their strength is tanking, or they are not having the kind of control they need to have on the regions that they seemingly are controlling, they may resort to extrajudicial or extrajudicial killings, and in order to put it in the minds of people that they are as strong as or stronger than Boko Haram, as the case may be. What they are doing essentially is to play with the minds and hearts of people.
All right, a bit of soft perception of peddling, if you may. But thank you very much, Abdulateef Ahmed, our head of research and monitoring desk right here at News Central.
Right. Okay, so now let's bring you more top stories. It is a significant day today in South Africa as the country marks 45 years since the 1976 student uprising in South Africa. Now, on this particular day, June 16 to be precise, in 1976, the apartheid police gunned down 176 students and injured hundreds more. The uprising was sparked by a government policy forcing students to learn in Afrikaans, the language of the oppressor.
Now, the day is marked each year with official government events and youth-focused events. Now, despite this focus, primary and high schools still contend with problems such as infrastructure and inequality. Now, to discuss this further, we're joined by Equal Education General Secretary live from South Africa, Nottedo Madubedube. Apologies, Madubedube. Good morning, Nottedo. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having us. It is indeed a momentous type of commemoration today. But right. I don't want to pretend that we are all excited about what this day reminds us of, because the kinds of tragedies and the issues that young people and the youth of South Africa were arguing for and struggling for in 1976 are still very prevalent in our communities today. And so we sit in a deep despondency and a deep generational rage as young people in South Africa today. So while we commemorate, I think our message and our actions today are really just about showing the face of inequality to our government, to our parents, to our communities, to our churches, and asking for support and solidarity, especially for basic education.
Right. Okay, now looking at this situation, because I mean, 45 years ago, it was a sad scenario. A 13-year-old child was killed during this incident, and we had lots of people who were killed and also wounded as well. But if we're moving forward and we're looking at what has been done, especially in terms of equality, language equality, we understand that there are certain challenges that the country was facing in terms of this one. Now we're looking at it, the challenges that include equality of education and as well as infrastructure. Now, amongst these two challenges, which has been taken care of or focused on as we speak?
So we are inside a democratic state or government at the moment, but we exist in that democracy with two different types of education systems in South Africa. We've got a very privileged and advanced and well-resourced education system, which mostly caters to a very small portion of those that are more privileged financially and socially in South Africa. And that is the white population and the emergent middle class of Black people. And those schools are able to help learners go through basic education in a way that allows them to participate in the world and the country's resources in the future. The second system, and they're all both public education systems, the second system still has over 3,000 schools with long drops, what we call plain pit latrines, as the only source of sanitation. We still have over 3,300 schools that do not have reliable access to electricity. We still have over 17,300 schools that we don't have libraries. We still have massive overcrowding in our classrooms that average over 73 learners in a classroom at a time. And so whilst we understand to be inside a democratic sort of agenda, we don't feel that our education system has done the right or the appropriate redress to ensure that there's equality between those that are privileged and those that are without. And also to make the disparity quite clear, white and Black South African youth and children aren't experiencing the same education system. And this is why we still argue. And so when we talk to our members at Equal Education, we ask them, what are the things that you see in your school and in your school community that make it difficult for you to access the best kind of education that you can? And they've said to us, it's infrastructure. It's knowing that when you go to school and you are a young woman that is a learner, you can't go when you're on your period because there is no bathrooms and no sanitation facilities. You can't go to school now during COVID and feel safe as a learner or even as a teacher because there is inadequate classrooms, there are inadequate teachers, and there are inadequate resources to make sure that you can learn properly from home. And what the education department recently said to South Africans, it said to catch everyone up on the education program, especially learners that are in those Black schools, it would take up from now up to 2035 to make sure that people can catch up and learn the requisite things that they need to have achieved a quality and decent and equal basic education in South Africa. So things are looking very bad. But I do want to say, because it is Youth Day, that programs and social movements that are led by young people like Equal Education have made it a point in the last 10 years to fight government on transparency, on accountability, on action to make sure that we do address these issues of infrastructure in our country. So in the last 3 years at least, we've seen at least 34% of schools that were projected to have been completed in improvements of infrastructure, that job has been done. But we work tirelessly every day to make sure that government does in fact build schools for young Black learners.
All right, so now your department, which is Equal Education, has long tried, to get education department in the country to give clarity, on basic minimum norms and standards. Now, how successful has this campaign been?
It's very slow. So what government has done is that it's allocated a sum of money that they've ring-fenced and said this money will be used solely for infrastructure projects. But many of our provinces, the subdivisions of the National Department of Education, typically bring that money back to government and it goes unspent. But like I was sharing with you, a lot of schools still deeply lack resources. And so we ask ourselves the question, what is the issue with government and addressing a basic and fundamental right for young Black learners in this country? And what we understand to be the failure is political will, a sense of urgency and an understanding that it is human dignity to provide children with a safe environment for learning and for them to go and find their full selves inside of a school community. And so we do the work of consistently monitoring and providing advice to government around how to better build schools, but the progress is disappointingly very, very slow. And during this COVID period, the government also then retracted or deducted 1.7 billion rand from the infrastructure budget to go and repurpose for personal protective equipment, for example. And we said, this is nonsense. It can't happen because you already have issues where learners don't have enough classrooms in their schools on a daily basis. So you can't be taking further money from that budget. And we're fighting with our National Treasury. We're fighting with our president. We're fighting with our Department of Education because as young people, our concern isn't just the future, but it is the now. Because we are the generation that is meant to, I don't know, be inside a country that values and feels like it is worthwhile to invest in our beings so that we can become the best kind of adults in the future. And so the progress is slow, but we are in struggle for a quality, free, and a decolonized education system, and not tomorrow, but today.
But today, right now, I know the South African government a few years back, they created a Safe Initiative project, and I know you spoke so passionately about that as well. But looking at this day, 45 years ago, it was a day the youths in the learning environment came out to express their displeasure in terms of how it was being done. But today now, looking at what it is today, 45 years after, what does Youth Day actually mean to you?
To me, it's an opportunity to be in conversation with other young people that isn't organized or facilitated by any adults that understands themselves to have done something great for us in the past. But for us to talk really about our challenges and issues and not wait for others to give us an opportunity to meet, to plan, and to imagine the kinds of futures we have. And the types of issues that young people deal with on a day like this go beyond the normal bread and butter issues. So we start talking to each other about how are we able to walk down the street if you're of a different sexual orientation? How are you able to walk down the street if you are poor and come from a lower social class? How are you able to walk down the street if you don't understand yourself to have a job or hope of a job in the next bit? And all of these things fundamentally boil down to how do you experience the education system in your country? Because if we were all educated in ways that made us feel full and whole, and we had the resources that were due to us as young people inside South Africa and active citizens of our democracy, then these issues should be addressed in the immediate, but we must inform how the addressing looks. Right. So we must be the people that guide what kind of budget is allocated to these things, where must these things be prioritized to happen first. And that is in our rural provinces and in the townships that we live in, because those spaces are very violent to us as young people at the moment. And that self-initiative, the president, we spoke to him, you're a bit disingenuous about what you're trying to achieve here, because it pushes out the deadlines of when government committed to fixing and building schools in our community.
Thank you so much, Notado Madube-Dube, Equal Education General Secretary, for coming on Breakfast Central live from South Africa. Thank you once again, Notado. All right, away from South Africa, now let's move back to West Africa, Nigeria to be more precise, with an exclusive report from our very own reporter, Bernard Akede, from News Central's reportorial desk.
It was a Black Saturday on June 5th of 2021 in Igongo area of Oyo State, southwestern Nigeria, as scores of people were killed and property worth millions of naira were razed. News Central Bernard Akede took a trip to the scene of the attack and brought back untold stories about the massacre. Let's watch this exclusive report.
Community, normal life as they know it has changed. Located in the Ibarakpa North local government area of Oyo State, southwest Nigeria, Igangan is about 2 hours drive from Ibadan, the state's capital. Most of the locals here are farmers, and the town is usually quiet and peaceful. But the activities of 5th June 2021 soon changed things and made the town a trending topic.
Something 5 minutes to 11. Ni issue yesele. Iba ya kodun. Akuba ya ba won yan wa. Relax be àwọn pé kò ṣe ba won yan wa. Ba so ma de lekeji. Iba ya tudun, wọ́n ti wọnú gboro. Wọ́n bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí operate.
The people now live in fear and on high alert. Every young man and woman who can take up any form of arms has to do so to protect himself and his family.
They started right about a kilometer away from the palace. Shooting, damaging shops everywhere.
until they were at the palace. So the palace was damaged. Everything burnt. Salim Siriki, you know him. He was solidly behind the issue. He started everything. It was summons to the palace before this thing happens.
The police had, however, confirmed that 11 people had died in the attack. With lives and livelihood lost, the people are angry. Several government officials have visited the community and have condemned the killings and the destructions.
What I've seen is unbelievable. Things like this should not happen in this country at this particular time. It's unbelievable. We need to do something, and do something very quickly and urgently as a government. On my part, as a member of parliament, of course, we've been talking about it, been discussing about it. We have met several times with the heads of security agencies. We have indicated our willingness as a parliament to provide whatever they need. But in a situation like this, I think you can't continue to do the same thing, same way, and expect different results. We need to decentralize the policing system in this country. When things like this are happening all over the country, and government does not do anything, then you may not have a country by the time you wake up the next day. May that not happen to Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the Serikin Fulani of Igangan, Salihu Abdul Kadri, has denied any involvement in the recent killings in Igangan community. Speaking to Premium Times, the Fulani leader in the community said, "I want to tell the whole world that my family and I were not involved in the Igangan crisis. Since the crisis began about 4 months ago, we have relocated from Igangan. None of my children was killed in the recent crisis because they are all not resident in the town anymore." As the people of Igangan bury their loved ones and count their losses, they call on the government to come to their aid, and Nigerians in general call for an end to the killings and for the perpetrators to all be brought to book. Bernard Akede, News Central.
All right, so you can catch more of that exclusive report by our very own Bernard Akede later tonight on News Central. You don't want to miss it. An investigation into the happenings, the untold stories of the June 5th Black Day and the Igangan killings. Well, joining us right now is Bernard Akede himself, our correspondent. Bernard, good morning to you. Welcome to Breakfast Central. Well, Bernard, I'd like to start first of all. The perpetrators, they might not have been identified in terms of person to person, but it's clear that we know who they are, or the group in question, right?
Well, yes, from speaking with the community people and the community leader himself, they claim that these perpetrators were Fulanis who reside or who used to reside in the town before they were asked to leave the town. Now, according to the community leader, he said that the Fulani community has been there for ages, even before he was born. You know, they have been generation upon generation. As we know, the Fulanis are herders and they are nomads that move around with their cattle looking for pastures green to feed their cattle and to survive. So they've been there for quite a while until recently when there had been, some misunderstanding between the community and the Fulani herders, wherein the herders and their cattle have been encroaching into farms and destroying part of their farmland. They tried to settle that issue, and then at some point, according to the leader, they told them to leave the town. And after that, some of them said they will come back and that they were going to, to wreak havoc on the town, according to the traditional head, that's the Asigongon of Igogon, whom I spoke to back then. And from there is where things escalated, according to him.
Right, Bernard. Now, tell us about the atmosphere. What's the body language of the residents who are still in the Igongo area? And what's the Oyo State government doing about the situation?
Okay, well, first of all, like you could see from the clip, almost every young man there who can lay his, or a woman as well, who can lay his or her hands on any form of arm and ammunition to protect themselves are doing so. The town has become very quiet and very tense. You can almost cut the atmosphere with a knife. You would see young men on motorbikes with Dane guns or with axes or with machetes or with some kind of improvised weapon, just making sure that they are ready for any form of attack and to protect themselves and their families. They've mounted roadblocks at different parts of the town so that if anybody is coming in, there's a stop and search. At least we went through about 3 or 4, of such, which didn't used to exist before. So you can tell that the people, they are really agitated and are preparing themselves for anything to come after this. As for the government, the state governor has been at the place. Several representatives have also been into the town. The commissioner of police also had spoken. I did state that the commissioner stated that 11 people were killed. So the government is definitely looking into the matter based on what they have said. There will be compensations. The government also did say we don't know what kind of compensations will be given, and that the people are asking for more protection from the government because they said that the assailants came with more sophisticated weapons than they had. So it clearly wasn't a fair fight at all. They also came late at night while they were unprepared. But again, the atmosphere is tense as at the last time we were there, and they're hoping that the government will take charge and protect them. But not just them, protect every other community because they believe that the killings have to stop.
All right, Bernard, from the images, really harrowing, disturbing images we were watching in that clip, even the palace, the Asigongo Palace, burnt to the ground. I mean, the audacity, of such acts and very brazen and to be done and with nothing, with any sense of repercussion whatsoever. So, Bernard, before we let you go, because we're just going to ask you to do something for us, what should we expect from the final piece? Because we know that this is an exclusive that will be coming on later on News Center. What should we expect when we watch this later, the full version?
Well, the full version is almost 10 minutes long. It shows our total, journey through the community. We spoke to several people. There may be some scenes that may be a bit disturbing because we still did see marks of scuffle and fighting. There were places we visited where people were killed. There still were marks of blood. So it may be disturbing, it may be touching, but it's something I believe everybody should watch. And I also would like to say that we were not able to speak to the head of the Fulani community, but he had given a report on Premium Times stating that he and his family members were not involved in these killings. So the rest of the investigation is for the police to carry out and to come out with the final result. But I would urge everyone to watch this piece. It's on our YouTube channel, and you will get the full version from our findings in Igongo town.
All right, thank you very much, Bernard. Just before we let you go, what's the latest when it comes to COVID-19 updates?
All right, as for COVID-19, Olisa, to answer you, we're going first to South Africa. And in South Africa, we hear that the country has tightened its lockdown restrictions from last night as COVID-19 infections in the country have soared. Earlier, our South African correspondent, Candice Bailey, highlighted some of the restriction measures, announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa in his address last night.
11 p.m. to 10 p.m., which means that restaurants will have to close at 9 so that workers can get home. We are no longer selling alcohol on weekends, so alcohol will only be able to be sold from Mondays to Thursdays between 10 and 6, and that's for off-site consumption. On-site consumption, you'll still be able to buy over the weekend. Also, funerals, you'll only be able to have 50 guests at any funeral, and venues will only be able to have 50 people inside and 100 people outside. So nothing new, nothing spectacular, but still the same restrictions that we've seen earlier on in the pandemic.
From there, we move to Namibia, where the country has locked down the capital city, Windhoek, to contain the further spread of COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the president, Hage Geingob, made this known while addressing his nation just yesterday. The president said that this is aimed at safeguarding the lives and livelihood of Namibians, adding that the existing public health regulations announced on May 28th and set to expire on June the 30th will now be amended. Windhoek has recorded about 52% of the total cases in the entire country and is currently the epicenter in the fight against COVID-19. Now, Geingob, the president, also reduced the number of persons at public gatherings to 10, while events should not last longer than 2 hours. And finally, we'll give you an overview of COVID reports in Africa. Now, so far, the continent has reported over 5.6 million cases, over 135,000 deaths, and over 4.5 million recoveries. Also, the continent has carried out over 49.8 million tests. We also would like to say that we all should still take COVID restrictions seriously as the virus is still out there.
Right, thank you very much, Bernard Akede, for the latest when it comes to COVID-19 updates. And we know that a lot of people have, some people have watched the full interview and also on YouTube, but we'll be previewing it again on News Central with full 10 minutes. And Bernard, well, what can I say? We'll just brace ourselves for that report. But thank you very much for such investigative journalism and taking the pains and the trips to go there, you know, and cover this story in Igogo. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, still Breakfast Central on News Central. Coming up next on the program.
We'll be giving you Nigerians who qualify for USA Storytelling Project.
And that man there, no introduction. Ronaldo becomes Euro's top goal scorer.
And programs to watch on News Central today.
Right, you're still watching Breakfast Central on News Central. It's a Wednesday, 16th day of June, 2021. Let's go straight for more entertainment now. Now, the Nigerian creative scene over time have established their mark, not just on the continent, but also on the global stage, winning awards and, breaking records. Now, this time around, some Nigerian storytellers have been nominated in the US, and our entertainment plug, Samuel Ojo, aka Sam Dandy himself, is going to tell us all about that. Sam, good morning to you. What's this story about, nominations for Nigerian storytellers?
Let me tell you about that, right? So in Nigeria, right, 8 people, filmmakers to be precise, have been selected to represent our country as finalists for the U.S. Embassy and Catalyst Story Institute Filmmaking Project. Now, of course, the list include people like Adekunle Nodash, Nadine Ibrahim, Bolanle Edwards, Tolu Awobi, and of course, some other people, right? And what's incredible about this is they get to represent 9 other countries. Of course, they get to compete against 9 other countries. I'm talking Algeria, Brazil, Canada, South Korea, Germany, Mexico. So it's just I'm just super proud to be Nigerian at this point, right? So it was first announced in April 2021, and the project, of course, is in partnership with the Innovation Station at the U.S. State Department, as well as, Entertainment Foundation by Will and Jada. And now it was set to discover content creators to produce world-class films. Now, I'm just super excited because I think, according to the list, right, Nigerian has the most finalists to make that list, and I'm just super excited. Now, let me move to Gold Coast, right, where Ghanaian-born American rapper Jibril has shared his personal experience in a bid to encourage Ghanaian youths. So sharing how staying in America with an expired visa landed him in maximum security precinct for a year. Now, the Ghanaian American hip-hop artist advised others to avoid following suit. The musician, who, according to himself, is not ashamed of speaking about his incarceration, said, and I quote, "I like to talk about this experience a lot because knowledge is power. Wherever I talk about it, others learn and avoid such circumstances." Now, Gibril spoke about this in a recent interview and advised that young people should go the right way. And of course, I have to admit, it's very important. No one wants to spend his time in prison. Well, let's go, of course, to the East, where singer Kevin Bahati has continued setting pace with his music. Now, the Kenyan singer, who has released 2 videos from his latest album, Love Like This, has joined the growing list of artists who have had their album advertised on New York's Times Square. Now that's big. Now his album already recorded over 300,000 streams in 24 hours, and that's a record for Kenya. Now, of course, Ugandan musician Eddie Kenzo, was the first East African artist to get a feature at the billboard of Times Square in New York. That's big. And now Kenzo also became a special record, was the first Ugandan to get a BET for East Africa. Now, other East African artists include Kenya's band Southeast Soul, Tanzania's Rayvanny, and Diamond Platinum, of course. These are East Africans who have had their albums, displayed there at Times Square. And it's, like I said, it's big for anyone. It's big for any artist.
All right, thank you very much, Sam Dandy. Once again, another African getting that billboard on Times Square. Quite impressive. Thank you very much, Sam, for latest entertainment.
Of course, anytime.
All right, still to come right here on Breakfast Central. Well, Sierra Leone beats Benin 1-0 to secure AFCON qualification for the first time in 25 years. Yes, since 1996, they've not played in AFCON. We will tell you how they've qualified. All that and more when we come back. All right, time now for some sports right here on Breakfast. Congratulations to Sierra Leone. They beat Benin 1-0 in Conakry to qualify for the AFCON for the first time in 25 years. Yes, since 1996, they have not played in any AFCON. Talking about the Sierra Leone side, and their striker converted a penalty for them as they won that match. Not bad at all for Sierra Leone, which means they join Nigeria from Group F into the AFCON. Also, Cristiano Ronaldo, well, he needs no introduction. He scored 2 goals for Portugal, defending champions, as they beat Hungary by 3-0 in Budapest in their opening game of Euro 2020 campaign. Not bad at all for Ronaldo. He's broken a record. He now has 11 goals, the most goal scorer when it comes to the European Championship. Or goal machine indeed for the Portuguese captain. And the big game last night saw France against Germany. 1-0 it finished for the French, the world champions. So it was an own goal by Matt Hummels after some great play from France, and Kylian Mbappe, well, really causing problem with all that pace and power up front. So France beating Germany 1-0, all in that same group. So there you have it for football, and there'll be lots of to cover later on when it comes to In the Game.
All right, and that's it all for sports for today. But what programs will be showing later today on News Central TV?
In the Game comes at 10:30 a.m. They'll tell you all about the sports.
And 12:30 p.m. West African time, we have Zero to Lunch.
Also at 3:35 p.m. Skin Deep. You don't want to miss it.
All right, now we had told you at the start of the day that today is World Fresh Veggies Day.
Veggies.
A day that is actually celebrated in the early summers when the tastiest new season vegetables become plentiful.
Yeah, so which means I'll be having a bountiful breakfast of veggies this morning. And we hope you do so too. And we'll be leaving you with a mishmash, of chefs doing veggies and, healthy eating, which
actually,
is
her name is Sisi Jemima.
Sisi Jemima.
Sisi Jemima. She's going to be showing us a really nice delicacy that is made, especially from one of our African vegetable delicacies called Eforiro.
All right, enjoy those vegetables and eat your vegetables for breakfast if you can. Until then, bye-bye for now. We'll see you again tomorrow.